Hey y'all, what's going on? Jared Hoffman here with another edition of the Better Than Less Than podcast. Appreciate everyone who is tuning in with me live right now. If you can, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm breathing heavy because I was running. I had to get me some water before I got up on here. But appreciate everybody that joined me. Please, if you can, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the HBCU Sports YouTube channel. Please subscribe to become a level 1, 2, or 3 member to get all the exclusive content from the HBCU Sports team. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Search HBCU Sports. You're going to find us there. And you can always go to hbcusports.com for all the latest news in HBCU Sports. Please go to HBCU Sports/donate. We need money. We need money to fund this operation, and you guys are a big part, would be a great part of that if you went to hbcsports.com and contributed anything you could to the HBCU sports team. And please hit the super chat if you hear in the live chat. That will be greatly appreciated. And is there anything else I need to share before I get into all these great games that we had this past weekend? Before we get into these games from this past weekend, dang, there was something I wanted to say. Yeah, I'm all over the place, man. Oh yeah, that's right. But for all the people that's new here, Better Than Less Than podcast. This is covering all the Division II and NAIA sports. So all of the stuff is coming from the CI. All the news is coming from the CIAA, the SIAC, the HBCUAC, and our independent friends like West Virginia State, Lincoln, Missouri, like Florida Memorial, like Langston. You will get all of that here. So if you are a supporter of any of the Division II or NAIA HBCU institutions, please, your viewership from with the Better Than Less Than podcast would be greatly appreciated. We also have a show dedicated to the MEAC with the MEAC and more with Chris Stevens, where he covers the MEAC and our independent friends at the Division I level, like North Carolina A&T, like Hampton, and Tennessee State. I blanked for a second. So if that is your cup of tea, Chris Stevens, he has the MEAC covered every Wednesday. He usually does that around noon. So please tune into his show. He just did a great breakdown of last week's action where Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson both got their first career coaching wins. So go ahead and watch that stream for yesterday where he's talking about those games. And I will cover a little bit of Michael Vick's first career win because he did it against a Division II institution. So stay tuned to that. But first, we got to get into what was the biggest game of the weekend and probably the biggest result of the weekend from last week, which was Johnson C. Smith knocking off Division II powerhouse Valdosta State 28-16. Johnson C. Smith played a heck of a game. They played a heck of a game. It didn't go well in the early goings. Valdosta State got up, I believe, 10 to 7 or 10-3 or something like that. And Johnson C. Smith just hit a switch. They played well defensively all game. I think the offense took a while to get into the rhythm, and once they got in rhythm, they did not let their foot off the gas. There was a couple points in that game where Valdosta State had an opportunity to go ahead, but Johnson C. Smith, they held strong defensively, specifically defensively. Kelvin Durham played a pretty good game. Let me get those numbers popped up for you guys real quick. We're doing this live. Kelvin Durham was 17-27 with 227. He had a couple of receivers that had some multiple reception games. DeAndre Proctor had 6 receptions for 99 yards. Reginald Daniel had 3 for 63 and a touchdown. And Brian Lane had 4 receptions for 53 yards. I think the most impressive thing about what Johnson C. Smith is doing early this season is that they're doing it without who was their top receiver last year in Brevin Caldwell. I'm not sure what's going on with Brevin Caldwell, if he's injured or what's going on and why he hasn't played so far this season. But the fact that Johnson C. Smith has had this level of success, and they were supposed to have Armand Harris, who's still at Clark Atlanta. They were supposedly going to have Brevin Caldwell, who was their leading receiver last year, but he hasn't played. and they're still having this success. I think it just shows you that how good Kelvin Durham is, and how good this defense is. Because even this defense had a couple of losses that they've had to deal with. Quavaris Crouch, who was the running back last year for them, has moved to linebacker, and he's making an impact. He had an interception last week, and now he had a tackle for loss in this game, three tackles and a tackle for loss in this game. So that just shows that this team is extremely well coached. Give Maurice Flowers all of his flowers for what he has done with this team and the great coaching job he's done and getting these guys ready to play at any moment. Any of the like any guy who steps into that game is ready to make an impact, and that has a lot to do with the coaching of Maurice Flowers. And if he continues going the way he's going now, I'm not sure how long Johnson C. Smith will be able to hold on to him, because he's going to be highly sought after by top division. He should be sought after by Division I programs. They have Elizabeth City State coming up this weekend. I fully expect that to be a win for Johnson C. Smith. Elizabeth City State, they've played pretty well in their first couple of games with Adrian Jones as their head coach. Shout out to Chris Stevens in the chat, said Flowers. They're far and away the CIAA favorite right now. I don't know about far and away. We'll get into why I say that in a second, but I definitely say that they would be the favorite. I had them as my pick to win the CIAA this year, and I'm sticking with that. And nothing I've seen this year has shown me anything that should make me worried about them being the favorite in the CIAA right now. They are probably the most balanced team in the CIAA this year, save for maybe one team. We'll get into them in a second. But Johnson C. Smith has started the season exactly how they are supposed to after the way their season ended last year. They're trying to get the taste of that out of their mouth. And through 2 games, they've done Through 2 games, they've done a very good job of, having a short-term memory about the way their season ended last year. But now they can't worry about that right now. They can't worry about, how good they look right now. What they're focused on is finishing strong. They have not done that yet. They have not shown that they can be a team that finishes a season strong and puts themselves in the championship game, because that's what they're playing for right now. They're not playing to be the CIAA favorite. They're playing to be the CIAA champion. They haven't been that since 1969. So as great as this win is for Johnson C. Smith, as great as they're looking right now, it doesn't mean anything if they're not in Durham for the CIAA championship game. So incredible win by Johnson C. Smith. They faced adversity early. We're down 10. It was actually 10-0 that they were down. They were down 10-0 in the second quarter, and then they fought back. And they fought back against Valdosta State. Any other team would have folded under the pressure, falling down early to Valdosta State, and would have just packed it in. They played to win. They played to win that game, and they got the win. So now they got to focus on, their starting conference play this weekend against Elizabeth City State. They got to be dominant in that game. They have no choice but to be dominant in that game and to show why they are who not me. They don't have to prove nothing to me, but they prove to themselves that they can get to the CIAA championship game and win it. Something they haven't done, like I said, since 1969. But a great win by Johnson C. Smith over Valdosta State, and we'll see what they do this weekend. Another team that's looking unbeatable right now is Albany State. Albany State beat Kentucky State 49-21, and you would not believe by that final score that this was a competitive game. But in the first half, this absolutely was a competitive game. Kentucky State was hanging with them offensively. I love this Kentucky State team. It's just unfortunate that they run into an Albany State team that is in rare air right now. Albany State looks like a team that may not lose a game leading into the SIAC championship game. I'm looking. If you look at their schedule, I'm gonna pull up their schedule real quick. I'm not sure I can find a game that I think that Albany State can lose, other than that includes this upcoming weekend. I'll get to that in a second. But just looking at the Isaiah Knowles, I don't know what there is I can say about Isaiah Knowles other than he might be the best quarterback in Black college football. I'm gonna say that again. Isaiah Knowles might be the best quarterback in Black college football. He is almost flawless every time he plays. Every time he steps on that field, you can expect him to make big plays. He scored 6 passing touchdowns in this game against Kentucky State, including 3 in the fourth quarter that helped Albany State get away from Kentucky State. This is his third 6-touchdown game in the past 2 seasons. This is his first game with 7 total touchdowns. He added a rushing touchdown in this one. One game you might have Tyant Weish, rush for over 100 yards and a couple of touchdowns. And then another game you might have Isaiah Knowles throwing for 5 or 6 touchdowns. I don't know what you can do to stop this offense. If you hold one, another goes off. Then you hold the other, then the first person goes off. Like, better than body. It's a debate. To me, it's a debate. I think Andrew Body, you might have to give him that title because at the end of the day, he's the Division I guy, but I think there's a great argument for Isaiah Knowles being the number 1 guy in Black college, number 1 quarterback in Black college football. He has a strong argument. Like he has this offense looking unstoppable right now. He has them, even when you hold them, you don't hold them down for very long. Kentucky State, I'm pretty sure, felt like they had a chance when it was 28-21 going into that fourth quarter. And Isaiah Knowles just hit a switch. He just hit a switch. I don't know what you can do to stop this team because they just have too much offensive talent. FAMU, they could have had him. They chose to go with James Colsey. He was on the staff. They wanted somebody in-house, and they got somebody in-house. And speaking of FAMU, Albany State goes up against FAMU this weekend, and I'm going to be honest with you, I might have to go with Albany State in that game. This is the worst we've seen FAMU look since they've joined the SWAC. And they are up for the taking. There is a chance they can go into Bragg and get that upset. This is not the FAMU, the dark cloud defense. This is not that. They don't have the Jesus, I forgot the name of the quarterback they had. But they don't have the talent. They don't have Terrell Jennings. They don't have the Isaiah Lands. They don't have those guys anymore. This is not the FAMU of old. This is a team that can be beaten. Jeremy Musa, thank you, Emmett. Jeremy Musa, that's what his name was. But they don't have that talent that they had once before. And with all due respect, Willie Simmons ain't on those sidelines anymore. This is a game that Albany State, this would be a huge confidence boost for Albany State. If Albany State wins this game, you might as well just let them fast forward to the end of the season and put them in the SIAC championship game now. Because they're just going to be waiting for who they're going to be playing in that game. Because there's no way that they lose because their remaining schedule. Granted, their remaining schedule isn't the easiest, but I don't see too many opportunities for them to take a loss. They got the toughest games they have on their schedule remaining, if they were to beat this game, is they have Clark Atlanta, but they're hosting Clark Atlanta. They have Tuskegee for homecoming, a tough draw for homecoming, but I'm fairly confident that Albany State will win that game. Now, this is tough. They go into Columbia to face Benedict. They go on the road to face Benedict. And Benedict is, to me, one of the more underrated teams in black college football, probably the best defense in Division II black college football. So that would be a tough game. And then, of course, they have Fort Valley State in the Fountain City Classic. And don't forget, they have Savannah State on Senior Day. Savannah State is definitely a tough out. So, but to be fairly confident, I don't see any team competing with them right now. SIAC ain't typical. They had. Hey, you said it. You said it, not me. You said it, not me. Central State, they did beat Mississippi Valley State. Miles is beating Alabama State. Excuse me. Lane hung 42 on UAPB. So SIAC has competed well against the SWAC in past years, and this is the best SIAC team than any SWAC team will face. And there's 4 SIAC versus SWAC games this weekend. We'll talk about another one that I think could have a team on upset alert in a second as well. But Kentucky, speaking of a SIAC team that will face against a SWAC team this weekend, Kentucky State plays against Grambling State. And don't be surprised to see Kentucky State competing well in that game. I have Grambling winning that game, but Kentucky State, this offense is balanced. Excuse me, the congestion. But Kentucky State, their offense is balanced. And I would not be surprised to see them hanging in this game at least through the first half. This Kentucky State offense is as balanced as they've ever been. They used to be a very run-dominant team, but now they have Torrance Bartle, a transfer from Langston, who has played well in his first couple of games with Kentucky State. Had a tough draw last week against Albany State, just a team that is better than them. But this Kentucky State is very good. Please don't think that they're just going to roll over and allow Grambling State to just run through them. Like, this is going to be, I feel like this is going to be a very competitive game. But yeah, that was Albany State. They got the win against Kentucky State, and I have them beating Florida A&M this weekend. I would not be surprised to see them beat Florida A&M. Do not be surprised to see them beat Florida A&M this weekend, because it could very well happen. And then he said Benedict has done well to restock their football program once Chennis Berry is left. I don't really think it's fair to compare Miles losing Sam Shade to Benedict losing Chennis Berry, because Benedict had an extra year and they had the talent that was already in the door. Miles has lost a lot of the talent that they had that made them the team that they are. Many key players from that defense is gone now. The Miles, many players from that championship defense of Miles is gone. If they had been able to keep at least one of them in the door, then maybe I would be a lot more confident and would have been a lot more confident in their ability to bounce back from losing Sam Shade. But they lost pretty much the entire defense that they had last year, and some key offensive talent that goes unnoticed because of how good that defense is. So it's not really fair to compare Benedict transitioning from Chennis Berry to Miles transitioning from Sam Shade. One, because Benedict just had the extra year, and two, Benedict found a way to retain the talent that they had. So, and that's not to diminish the job of Ron Dickerson. If anything, it elevates the job that Ron Dickerson has done, because he was able to keep the talent in the door. So, yes, Chennis Berry did take several of his players to South Carolina State, but there were guys that Chennis Berry had said while he was at Benedict that there were guys that were on the bench when he was there that he thought could have been starters. And it's showing now. Israel Nkwosha and is is having a great start to the season. There's another linebacker that I always forget the name. Lord, Demetrius Patterson. That's his name. Demetrius Patterson has played well. So we'll see what Benedict does this weekend. Forgetting who they play this weekend, but I'm gonna get that in a second. I'm looking that up in a second. But while I'm looking that up, well, actually, I'm almost there now, so I might as well finish it. Finish it. They play Central State this weekend, so I expect that to be a win, and I expect it to be a dominant win because they are better than Central State. So, but anyway, we go into our next game, which was Norfolk State nearly pulling off the upset. I picked Virginia State. Wrong team. Virginia State nearly pulling off the upset this weekend. I picked Virginia State to win this game. And through 3 quarters, it looked like that prediction was going to hold true. They were up 23-10 in the going into the 4th quarter. And they were just playing. They were playing as well as they could have played. There were some missed opportunities, but outside of that, they looked like the better team until Norfolk State put in Otto Coons as starting quarterback, and they started wheeling and dealing on offense. Otto Coons, I don't know if Michael Vick has made a definitive decision on who should be their starting quarterback, but it shouldn't be anybody but Otto Coons. All due respect to Israel Carter, that Norfolk State offense looks a lot better than with Otto Coons in the game than any other quarterback is when any other quarterback is in the game. Otto Coons makes this offense run so smoothly. I don't know what the debate is about who should be the starting quarterback. It should be Otto Coons, and it shouldn't be any other question about it. But we're not talking about the MEAC. We talk about the CIAA team in the mix, which is Virginia State. Virginia State played incredibly well. They were leading even after giving up those 2 touchdowns when Otto Coons came in the game. They composed themselves and they took back the lead with Rashawn Matthews. Rashawn Matthews has played so well. He has played so well in his first couple of games as a starter at Virginia State. Does not look rattled when he's in the game, just makes big plays when he's called upon. And it's just unfortunate that Norfolk State had Otto Coons come in and just take over. So investment was Virginia State, they should not be hanging their heads down because of this. Like, they absolutely should have won this game. They absolutely should have, and I'm pretty sure that's probably eating at them that they should have won this game. But this should not be anything they hang their head on. They showed how good they can be when they're playing at the top of their game. I just think that probably they got a bit too conservative in that 4th quarter and allowed Norfolk State to get themselves back in the game. But one thing, you can't allow a 33-yard touchdown run in the final minute when they're on a 2-minute drive. You can't allow a 33-yard touchdown run in a 2-minute drill. You can't. You just can't. Like, I understand that play call probably caught you off guard, but that should have been an easy stop. That should not have gone for a first down, let alone a touchdown. There's no way that should have happened. But yeah, I still am confident about Virginia State's abilities to make the CIAA championship race intense. Virginia State, who do they got this weekend? Let's look that up real quick. Virginia State will have, speaking of Winston-Salem State, WSU Ram Nation in the chat, they go into Winston-Salem State next weekend. So Virginia State is off this weekend, and they go into Winston-Salem State next weekend. Winston-Salem State just got their first win of the season. They beat help me out with WSU Ram Nation. Who did Winston-Salem State beat this weekend? But last weekend was it was Mars Hills, right? Was it Mars Hill? But I'm pretty sure he'll answer me when he gets the time. But yeah, yeah, Virginia State, they still, I still am confident about their abilities to make this CIAA championship race. They will probably have some teams on up. Not one of these two teams, either Virginia Union or Virginia State, on excuse me, Virginia Union or Johnson C. Smith, and on an upset alert. I'm confident in that. As much as I have Johnson C. Smith as the favorite, it could easily be Virginia State, Virginia Union again. All three of these teams are good enough to be in the championship game this year. It's unfortunate that one of these teams is going to have to lose out. But I mean, not lose out, but like miss out on the CIAA championship game, because all three of these teams are good enough. If anything, we can have a three-way CIAA championship game between these teams. That's how good they are. But it could only be two teams that are in that championship game, and only one can hold up that trophy. I have it being Johnson C. Smith, but as good as Virginia Union and Virginia State has been, we'll get into who Virginia Union plays this weekend in a second. But yeah, Virginia State, they came up short against Norfolk State. Probably thought it should have won that game. They absolutely should have won that game. But hey, it doesn't have any bearing on the CIAA play, and they get into CIAA play next weekend. They're idle this week, and they come back against Winston-Salem State. We'll see what they look like when they come back. Now, let's talk about Edward Waters, who has probably been the biggest surprise so far this season. You know, they let go of their they didn't let him go. He left. Toriano Morgan, their former head coach, left before the season even started, a day after SIAC Media Day, by the way. And they have recovered very, very nicely. They have recovered very nicely with, Brian Jenkins Sr. as the interim head coach, Eric Dooley as the offensive coordinator, and this offense looks spectacular right now. Had 41 straight points against Savannah State in a 41-14 win in their first game of the season, and then against Miles continued to show that dominance on offense, beat them 46-14. Edward Waters is looking like a sleeper team in the SIAC right now. I haven't had the chance to watch them play from start to finish. I caught a little bit of this game against Miles, but the job that Brian Jenkins Sr. is doing with this team, having to come in on, he was already on staff, to be fair, but the fact that he has this team looking as good as they have looked so far, with that coaching change happening, is remarkable. And Edward Waters, if they're playing like they have played on offense, they are going to give Virginia Union some trouble. I have Virginia Union winning this game, but Edward Waters, this team is looking like they could be an upset alert for some teams in the SIAC. I wish they would be playing Albany State this season, because I think that would be a very interesting game. Edward Waters is one of, I believe, 3 teams that are 2-0 right now. Virginia Union is undefeated, but they're 1-0. Benedict is also 1-0. But one of 3 teams that's 2-0. It's them, Johnson C. Smith, and Albany State, I believe, at the Division II level. There might be more, but I can't think off the top of my head right now. But Edward Waters, they could have Virginia Union on upset alert if they continue to play like they have been on offense. I'm curious to see who stands out for Edward Waters in this game against Virginia Union. I'm look at the box score real quick. Noah Bodden, who transferred from Southern, has played very well. He had 3 touchdowns in this game, 15 to 25, 201 yards in this game. Their running back John Terrius Thomas had 76 yards and 2 touchdowns on 10 attempts for Edward Waters. That scooper score, absolutely. That scooper score was for those who didn't see the game. That's one play I did see. Was it that game or was it the? Oh, excuse me. I'm thinking of my alma mater, the scooper score from my alma mater. But yeah, that came when it was oh, you talk about the Savannah State game. I'm thinking about, yeah, absolutely, yeah. All right, got me confused though, yeah. But yeah, Edward Waters. Speaking of Bethune-Cookman, they do play Bethune-Cookman next weekend. This weekend, Edward Waters has Virginia Union, but next weekend they have Bethune-Cookman, and do not be surprised to see Edward Waters win that game. I would not be surprised to see Edward Waters win that game, especially with how good they're looking on offense. And I know Eric Dooley will be highly motivated to get a win over on the SWAC. With the way that he was dismissed from Southern, I would not be surprised to see him very motivated to get a win over a SWAC opponent. So, and we've seen what happened the last time Bethune-Cookman played against the team in the SWAC. It didn't end well for them. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to that game when it happens, but we got to see what Edward Waters looks like against Virginia Union first. I expect it to be a competitive game, but I personally have Virginia Union winning, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think it's going to be a blowout at all. I think Edward Waters will hang well in that game, and we'll see what Noah Bodden can do against that Virginia Union team that myself and a lot of people have being a Division II playoff, a top Division II playoff contender. So that'll be a significant test for Edward Waters. But for right now, they're looking like the biggest surprise in HBCU football right now. 2-0 to start the season with 2 dominant 40-point games. Something which by the way, back-to-back 40-point games, something they haven't done in over 10 years. So this offense is in rare air right now, and we'll see if they can keep that going this weekend. Last game that I'm going to cover from this past weekend was Tuskegee hosting their first home night game, and they did it in spectacular fashion, shutting out Central State. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I tried to watch this game. It was a bore. This game was a bore. Central State just had nothing for Tuskegee. They had I'm not gonna say nothing. They had a couple of defensive stops. They forced a couple of turnovers in this game. They competed well, but Tuskegee was just clearly the better team. There was nothing that Central State can do when it mattered the most. Tuskegee looks really good right now. Tuskegee looks really good right now, and I'm interested to see what they look like against Jackson State. I think Jackson State blows them out. Obviously, Jackson State just has too much talent on that team, but I'm curious to see if they're able to what they look like and if they're able to make those plays. I forgot Tuskegee is another team that's 2-0 right now. They beat Winston-Salem State in the Red Tails Classic. But yeah, they looked unstoppable against Central State, even though they get stopped a couple of times. But yeah, there are a couple of Division II upsets that could be happening. I have Albany State beating Florida A&M. I don't think that Tuskegee is going to beat Jackson State, but I think that they have a chance to look good in spots against Jackson State. Who else? Kentucky State, I think, could look pretty good against Grambling State, even though I think Grambling's going to win. And I just think that Alabama State is just going to roll over Miles. This ain't the same Miles team that beat Alabama State in 2023. This ain't that same team. Even though Miles does get up for Alabama State, whether they're a good team or not, they get up for Alabama State. But I don't think this is that same Miles team, and I think Alabama State's going to roll through them. But Albany State has a chance to pull off the upset. Edward Waters has a chance to pull off an upset against Bethune-Cookman next weekend. Look, Division II teams are better than what people think they are. They are a lot better than what a lot of people think. We're not these regular Division II teams. We have teams that can come in and get a win in any situation. We have a lot of great talent. We have two or three that are in the NFL right now. Grover Stewart from Albany State. We got Joshua Williams from Fayetteville State. We got Emmanuel Wilson from Fort Valley State and Johnson C. Smith. So we got talent at the Division II level, at the Division II HBCU level. And we got guys that can win. We got teams that can win in many situations. So don't sleep on the Division II HBCUs when they come into your house. or else you can get upset if we coming in and we play at a high level. But back to Tuskegee. They kicked off they had their first home night game, and tremendous atmosphere as to be expected. I know this is not going to be the last home night game for Tuskegee, and I hope that it's an actual competitive game the next time they host a home night game. Because this one was not very competitive for the majority, especially when we got to the fourth quarter. But great win by Tuskegee. Tuskegee, there's a chance that they could be in that SIAC championship game. I think that Albany State has that first spot locked up. Albany State will be in a championship game. The question is who they will be playing. And right now, there's like 3 or 4 teams that I think could be there with them. It could be Clark Atlanta, it could be Edward Waters, or it could be Tuskegee. And honestly, I think that Benedict has a chance to get themselves in the game too. The question for Benedict is if that offense can hold up to the level of the defense. If they could play up to the level of the defense. I don't think that the offense has. We only seen one game of Benedict, so it's not really fair. But the offense didn't look particularly good against Fayetteville State. The defense did what it was expected to do, help them get that shutout win. But, the offense is going to have to play much better if they want any chance of getting into that championship game, because they have some stiff competition, like I said, with Clark Atlanta, with Edward Waters, with Tuskegee, even with Savannah State. I think Savannah State has a good chance. Kentucky State, do not write out Kentucky State yet. I think that offense is very good. And outside of Albany State might be the best offense in the SIAC. It's a debate. I'm not saying who I think it is definitively, who is better than who is the second best offense, because we know who the number one offense in the SIAC is. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into conference play, because we have a lot of top teams that could be top contenders in any other conference. In the CIAA, you got Johnson C. Smith, Virginia Union, and Virginia State. Even Winston-Salem State, when they get it together, I think could challenge some teams. And then in the SIAC, all the teams that I named in the SIAC, like whoever comes out of the CIAA and the SIAC and gets into the Division II championship game, I think there's a great chance we could get, once again, 2 teams making it past the first round of the Division II playoffs and potentially going even further. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else that needs to be said. But yeah, I think that's it. I'm looking forward to the action this weekend. We got some good games on tap, and yeah, looking forward to recapping the next week on the next edition of the Better Than Less Than podcast. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank everybody that tuned in, everybody that was involved in the chat. You guys, y'all kept me in it because there was a couple of times I was about to be nodded off. But I appreciate everybody for watching. If you can, leave likes, comment, and subscribe to the HBCU Sports YouTube channel. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those. Search up HBCU Sports and you will find us there. And go to hbcusports.com for all the latest news in HBCU sports. Please go to hbcusports.com/donate. We need money to fund this operation. You guys are a big part of that. It'll be greatly appreciated. Anything you are able or willing to give would be greatly appreciated. Until next time, I've been Jared Hoffman with the Better Than Less Than podcast. See you guys.